Hello and welcome to this week's instalment of In Conversation. My name is Dr. Karl. I'm the school's relation manager. I'm delighted today to be joined by Professor Mark Goodwin, who's our Deputy Vice Chancellor. Hi Mark, how are we doing?
Hi, Karl. Yeah, really good. Thank you.
Fantastic. Mark, I wonder whether we could start off by for you introducing yourself and giving us a brief overview of your role at the university.
Yeah, thanks, Karl. As you said, my name is Professor Mark Goodwin, and my particular portfolio is Deputy Vice Chancellor for Global Engagement. And as part of that role, I have responsibility for all of our recruitment and admissions work. So I'm talking to you about that today and really delighted to be here.
That's great. So Mark, I wonder whether we can start off first of all by looking at what the key challenges facing universities as we look ahead to the new academic year.
Well, I think, the key challenge, given the circumstances over the past 18 months or so, is making sure that all of our students have the best possible experience we can provide, given those current circumstances when they come to us in the autumn. Of course, what that will mean is hopefully opening everything back up again, and absolutely ensuring that our campuses are safe for all of our students and indeed all of our staff. So we've got a big task to do to adapt all our classrooms and our lecture theatres so that we can teach our students in a safe, socially distanced way. For students studying subjects like medicine, science, engineering, we'll obviously be making sure that all of our specialist laboratories are fully operational again. We'll be looking to have all our student societies up and running so students can experience the social as well as the academic side of university life. We've got over 300 of those, and we're working with our student guild in Exeter and our student union in Cornwall to do just that. We'll also be getting all our fantastic sports facilities, our gyms, back up to full speed, so students can experience the full range of university life when they join us. And I think also, obviously, for a Russell Group university like Exeter, we'll be getting all our research facilities back into full operation again. And actually, in a way, the university is like a small town, really, that we've got to get fully functioning again. It has its own shops, it has its residences, it has its cafes, restaurants, pubs and clubs, it has its playing fields, it has its gyms. What we've got to do between now and the autumn is to put all these back together again to give students a great experience. And we have around 6,000 staff at the university to make sure that all of this works in the best possible way. Not just the lecturers and professors who teach the students, but also the administrative staff, the cooks, the chefs, the porters, the cleaners, the gardeners. So a final challenge will be to bring all those people back onto our campuses to support every aspect of the students' experience here at Exeter, but to do that in a way that's absolutely safe and secure.
That's great. Now, Mark, the UK is making good progress with vaccination plans, and the English government roadmap indicates that we may be in a very different place just after the summer break. So, reflecting on the University of Exeter's plans for the 2021-22 academic year, what form is teaching likely to take?
It's a really good question, Karl. As you say, we're absolutely delighted that the vaccine rollout is going so well, and it's actually obviously already reached 18-year-olds in Wales and Northern Ireland. And we hope that all UK-based Year 13s will have had access to at least one dose of the vaccine before they come to campuses in the autumn. And planning is well in hand to figure out the best way for them to have both doses as swiftly as possible. And of course, international students joining with student visas will also have access to the vaccine in the UK, which is fantastic. So although we don't yet fully know how the pandemic will be affecting us by the time we get to the autumn and indeed across the next academic year, what we do know is that we're absolutely committed to providing an outstanding education, no matter what the year brings, and we won't let COVID-19 get in the way of our students obtaining some world-class degrees from us. Obviously, the health and well-being of our students and staff is our top priority. We've recently written to all of our offer holders with more details and links to our programs and with module information. If the roadmap set out by the UK government continues as planned, we expect to deliver the majority of our teaching face-to-face with personal academic support. So building on our experience of adapting our teaching over the past year, and by listening to student feedback this year, we've developed an enhanced blended approach to teaching and learning. That takes some of the best aspects of teaching that students have really enjoyed this year to provide really flexible learning activities. So it's called blended learning because it blends some online provision with the majority of the provision that we hope to deliver face to face. So students will be able to learn at their own pace. They'll have online material that they can watch, they can listen to complement their on-campus sessions. And in fact, we already had considerable experience at this before the pandemic. We have what we call a virtual learning environment in place. We've had that up and running for several years, where students are able to watch lectures online. But obviously over the past year, we've added many exciting study resources which are available to students digitally. And actually, we've learned so much over the past year about how to bring students' learning to life online. We know, for instance, that if we do have to do some online teaching, students want as much interaction as possible, both with their staff, but also with other students. So we can build live sessions online as well as recorded ones. So what we want to do really over the next year in terms of teaching, Karl, is to keep the best elements of online learning that we've learned about this year, but blend them with face-to-face learning. So our students have said they like the flexibility to watch recorded material, to be able to improve their understanding, to reinforce their study of particular topics, and we'd like to keep that. On the other hand, small group teaching, such as a seminar, may be much more stimulating in person. So we're going to have those small groups done in a face-to-face way. And actually, while it's technically possible to do experimental work through digital labs, for instance, we know that that's not really as exciting as being in a real lab. So we're going to open up all our labs again to provide that face-to-face teaching. Lots of students will also have field work in their degree programs, and actually we're already doing field trips again. They're up and running even at this stage of the pandemic. We've got all sorts of measures in place to keep them COVID secure, and our current students have had a fantastic time over the last few weeks going back out on their field trips again. So rest assured that we're committed to giving your students the best possible teaching experience. We will get them onto campus as much as we possibly can. We'll teach in person as much as we possibly can. But where that's not possible, they're in very safe and experienced hands with blended and online learning.
Now, for current Year 13s, they've had quite a challenging education experience over the last 2 years, a mixture of school closures, introduction of social distancing, and the major changes to the assessment process. Reflecting on our student experience, what should they expect when they commence in September?
Yeah, we do really recognise the challenges Year 13 have faced, Karl, and they've obviously had very difficult circumstances over the past 2 years, as you say. In fact, one thing we did learn last year, which should give people some reassurance, is that Year 13s really wanted to keep going with their studies. They didn't want to put their life on hold. They didn't want to let COVID stop them. And actually, they started university last year in really large numbers without the mass deferrals that some people were predicting. And we found this year that those students have stuck with their studies through a really challenging first year. But they're now enjoying a much more normal summer period, actually, judging by all the fun that's going on around us in Exeter at the moment. So I think what students can expect to find when they come onto campus is an awful lot of support for them. Our student guild in Exeter, our students union in Cornwall are fabulous at supporting social programs. Again, they'll be online if absolutely necessary, but many of our clubs, our societies, our sports take place outside where COVID is much easier to deal with. Others are fairly small groups. They can take place inside. We've got a comedy society, for instance, that's about fostering talent for comedy writing and performing, and they've been really creative. We've got other groups that have been really creative this year. So we've learned from that. And as I said earlier, we've got over 300 student societies to support students. We're planning a Freshers' Week on campus as normal, with backup plans if social distancing or other restrictions are still in place in the autumn for any reason. We've got fantastic outside spaces, both at our Devon campuses and our Cornwall campuses. For those of you that have been to Exeter, you will know that, but for those of you that haven't, we've got wonderful spaces outside where we can host events. We can have festival-style stalls for food and drink. We have hosted film nights. We can host barbecues. We can host lots of events outside. So let's hope the autumn of 2021 is kind in a weather sense to allow all that to happen. But of course, we appreciate that students coming to university directly from school and from college will have had hugely disrupted education over the past couple of years. My own daughter, actually, Karl, is a teacher, so I know from her the disruption that her pupils have been through. And we're really committed to supporting students during their transition to the university at Exeter. We've got an existing programme of transition and induction activities for new starters, but of course we'll be enhancing that this year to account for the heightened disruption that students will have endured. And that will focus on a whole number of areas of additional support, ranging from academic support to well-being and mindfulness support. And we'll make sure that our students have all the information they need to know what it means to be a full member of our university community here at Exeter. But we're very clear also that the transition for Year 13s doesn't just begin and end with Freshers Week, and we'll be taking a really comprehensive long-term view next year from the time students first join us. In fact, even before they join us, we'll be sending them lots of material. They'll be part of online groups, but we'll incorporate a very comprehensive program of activity right across the year to help our students feel at home.
Now, you mentioned support there, and some students may be seeking additional support when managing that transition from the Year 13 to university. What support does the University of Exeter provide for students in this area?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Karl. Obviously, all students on their application to university are invited to disclose if they have any specific disabilities or health conditions. And the reason why that happens is because that enables us to put the best possible support in place for those students so that they have the best possible chance to succeed in their studies. If a student does disclose those details on their application, the university will write to them to invite them to make their circumstances known to our well-being and our accessibility teams. We will review that documentation. We'll put in place reasonable adjustments for them. We'll put in place individual learning plans to support those students. They might get extra time for assessments. They might get specialist software, for instance. They'll get mentoring. They'll get buddy support. If students aren't able to contact us or don't contact us prior to arrival and need special help, then we offer in-person appointments throughout the year. We also have the disabled students allowance if disabled students need any specific support, so they can purchase equipment, they can purchase support for their studies. So that's all the formal things that we've got in place, but the university's wellbeing services also offer a whole range of talking therapies, counselling, mentoring, wellbeing services to help students who might be struggling with the transition. And of course, as you say, Karl, this year we're aware that that transition might be a bit more difficult than usual. We have workshops on topics around adjusting to university life, managing exam stress, overcoming panic, overcoming procrastination. We have a residence team that provides first stage support to all students in our halls. And this year, I think that whole team is really aware that students will be starting after a very difficult couple of years. So we've published a whole range of self-help booklets this year. Those are designed to help students find their way through the challenges of the pandemic. They're all available online. So we've got a whole set of things to support students who might need special help, Karl.
That's great. It's certainly reassuring to hear that. Mark, my final question here is about, we're often asked about our student body and composition. What would you say to prospective students who may share some concerns about the diversity of students on our campuses?
Well, I think firstly, Karl, it's important to note that Exeter is an incredibly diverse community. We have students from over 130 countries. We have staff from over 80 different countries. So students will always have people from their own culture, from their own societies that they can talk to. But we're continually working to enhance that diversity and to enhance the cultural competence of our student and staff community. So we do accept that there's always more to be done. I think crucially in developing activities around diversity and inclusion, the key is to do that in partnership, to deliver those actions together. So we work with our Students' Guild in Exeter, we work with our Students' Union on our Cornwall campuses to actually set out a whole range of activities. As I mentioned earlier, we've got over 300 student-led societies, but they include faith-based societies, they include worldview societies, they include liberation societies, representation societies, societies from different parts of the world where students can come together. There's also academic subject networks that students can get involved in, student-led change projects. We have a massive Respect Festival on campus each year that we run on behalf of the City of Exeter, which brings a range of diverse groups together from the university and the local community. We also have launched an equality, diversity and inclusivity vision for the university. We're committed to becoming the first culturally competent university in the UK. We've got a project focused on inclusive education. So there's an awful lot going on at the University, Karl, in terms of inclusivity and diversity. So we really want to ensure that we don't only recruit a diverse student and staff body, but that our structures, our practices, our environment supports people from all backgrounds to really thrive during their time at Exeter.
That's great. Great to hear, Mark. Thank you very much for your time today, Mark. Thank you for those insights. It's been fantastic to hear from you. And thank you for listening to us today. We hope you do join us for a future episode. But for now, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Karl. It's been a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you.